Welcome everybody. Uh, Another Friday. I missed last one, but Danielle and Oma did a good job showing off cloud workers and or Cloudflare workers. Very interesting one. I highly recommend going back and watching that one. It's on YouTube. Today we're trying out Ampt, right, and trying to prove if the developer experience is as they claim. And with us, we have nothing else but then Jeremy Daly, co-founder, CEO, big pusher for serverless, big serverless advocate. Welcome, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, obviously, the Celtics are world champions, so we can't dismiss that. It's funny you said, as we claim with the dev experience. Let me tell you what we claim. We're trying to make a better dev experience. Is it the best dev experience? I don't know. And actually, I'm super excited to watch you actually do this today because, again, we've watched hundreds of developers play around with Ampt and build things. And we've seen where some of the frustration is. We've seen where some of the sort of elation is like, wow, this is so easy. So like we're just trying to build a better dev experience. So, that's what we're trying to do. If it works for you, then we're super excited about it. And again, we've been at this for a very, very long time. Me personally building serverless applications for, I think it's been like 8 years, 9 years now, right? Because it was right after Lambda went GA that I started working on stuff. So we've been building it for a long time. I know people get frustrated with that developer experience. We're just trying to do our best to maybe make it a little bit easier. I think it's great, but I want to see what you think.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of, mostly you, right? You've done a lot of live streams, so I see how easy it is. I mean, you're in it all day, so I want to try it out, and I'm hoping it's just the same as how I watch it, right? So, we'll go over the documentation, pricing, all that fun stuff, and dig right into it. And I do have kind of like the mini project or the project that we're going to build.
Yep.
Alan Helton was kind enough of creating that, and he did it in like an hour, so I'm pretty impressed. But all the documentation with requirements and all that stuff, so we got something to build on, and
let's get into it. Let's do it.
Cool. Let me get the music, right, because then there's several silent pieces when I'm doing npm install.
Right. I like that. Okay. I like the music. That's good. That's good.
Cool. Okay. So starting off, right, Ampt. I like the colors and the dark themed stuff. It's not in your face. But I usually like to go through the pricing, right? And it's again, you're doing a lot of, or you're doing AWS and the backing.
Yep.
At the end of the day, you don't need to care, but you're very transparent with what you're using and all of that. So that's pretty cool. And for curious minds like mine, you've seen my question is like, but are you doing this when you make that call? When I've been into your live streams. So it's priced per developer. There's actually a free tier, right?
We actually changed it. So it used to be price per developer. And look, and I just want to be 100% transparent with the pricing. I don't want to charge people to use this, right? Like, it's not really like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want people to be able to build and do better things. You're using AWS resources behind the scenes. There are costs to us, obviously, to interact with those environments and do some of that stuff. So we're trying to open up a new way for people to build. And so, yes, we have to charge something for it because obviously, there's costs involved and there's people involved and things like that. But basically, we changed the pricing to basically say, it's just pay the sort of a base fee to cover some of our costs, and then the number of environments that we manage for you in AWS, then you pay sort of per environment and sort of do sort of these groups of environments. So if you're a single developer, $7 a month, and also we will give you $5 worth of AWS usage, right? So if you spend $5 on AWS and $7 with us, you only end up spending $2 with us and $5 with AWS. And then if you're a team and you can have as many people as you want. We say up to 15 members. But basically the idea is $49 for your whole team, and then depending on the number of environments that you use, we'll charge you for those environments plus whatever you use on AWS. And we can get into it, but like we just launched this new thing, this new billing report, cost and usage reports, where like we're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can be. You can see every environment that you've created in AWS, every cost for the different types of services you're using, all broken down, daily usage statistics, so you can see how much you're using per day. Like, we're just trying to be really, really open about it. And then at the end of the month, whatever you run up in AWS bills, we go ahead and send you a bill for whatever your usage was, with a 20% markup, I think is what we're doing now, just to cover fees and some other stuff that we have to do. But like, again, just trying to be super transparent about it.
So it's similar to how when you're using an AI model with Bedrock, right? And you're using Claude, it's going to send you the bill for that.
Right.
And yeah, cool. Okay, so pretty straightforward. I do understand. I mean, it's a business, right? And you have employees, right? So you got to pay those, right? And also cover the bills for AWS. So of course you got to pay for a tool. So it makes a lot of sense. And here's the big chat. The $5 in AWS credits, right? And if you're working in serverless, right? If you have your own account and you're running like your blog and doing test stuff, you rarely go over $5, right? I've rarely gone over $5 in a month. And these $5 in credits, it's every month, right? So
every month, right. And I mean, and just to give you some perspective, so we run our dashboard, and you'll see the dashboard in a minute. Actually, the website that you're seeing for Ampt, that runs on Ampt. Like, everything runs on Ampt. So just to give you like some perspective, the production environment of the dashboard costs $1.41. So it's $1.41 this month. Let me see what it was last month, because we were having it the whole month. It was $1.60 it cost to run our dashboard. And I mean, to give you some perspective around like the amount of traffic, let's see, I'll just go in, I'm looking at my own dashboard here. But yeah, so that's last week we've got 7.46K invocations, right? So like, it's not a ton, but it's a significant amount of stuff happening in the dashboard, and it costs $1.60 a month.
Yep. Again, and as a single lone developer, right? If you're doing projects and stuff, right? Just even to learn, it's not going to run. It's not going to run the bill, right?
Right.
Again, and there's a free tier, right? And that, how are the environments set for a free tier, or the limits there? As far as, like you see here, there's up to 6 environments, and then plus, how does it work with the free tier? How many environments do you get? And those
here, we call it a preview tier, and so we basically limit you to I think it's 100 API requests per hour, like 1,000 API requests per day. It's just so you can go in and kind of get your feet wet, and sort of play around with it. Again, I think one of the things that it is really sort of, it's become an expectation that a lot of things are free in the cloud, because cloud providers have free tiers, and PlanetScale had a free tier for a very long time. I mean, part of that expectation is, if you want to go in and play around with it, that's fine. But if you can do anything that you're getting value out of, you got to pay for it. I mean, it's just sort of the way that it is. And so we can only give away so much for free. So you do have the ability, I think, to create 3 different environments, something like that, but you can't create like preview environments and some of those things, but you can, use your developer sandbox and that kind of stuff.
Cool. Awesome. And I know we got a comment here, and they said, never mind, but it's a good question, and probably one we should have started with. What is Ampt?
No, I mean, essentially Ampt is a developer tool. It's a platform that basically allows you, so it does everything from CI/CD to your build management, to monitoring, to maintenance, everything that you do. There's a whole step that you can, or basically you just write application code. And what Ampt does is it takes that code and it deploys that into AWS on your behalf. But it does everything, including, packaging all of the libraries for you, just to, figure out what the infrastructure is needed, deploying the databases, all that stuff is handled for you. And basically all you have to do is write code. And then with the CI/CD that we have built in, you say, okay, now I want to deploy this to a dev stage. I want to deploy this to my production stage. You can hook it up to your GitHub and have it all automated for you. But essentially it is an end-to-end software development tool, or software development lifecycle tool, that gives you everything you need to build. I think we're going to build like a CRUD app today, or you're going to build a CRUD app today. Like, I mean, CRUD is what, 95% of the apps that people build, mobile backends. You want to build a Next.js site. You want to build a, a remix site with Remix, or you want to use Astro or something like that. Like we support all the front end stuff, we support all the back end stuff. So there's quite a few things you can do with it. But it's essentially a tool for you as a developer to build applications on AWS with the scale of AWS, using those native services without you having to become an AWS expert to figure out how all that stuff works.
Perfect. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit. Okay, yeah, pricing. So I'll just keep the docs open for my reference as we go through this. But I do want to bring up the little kind of thing. It's a README, and let me get a preview of the README markdown. So the app we're going to build, it's basically we're going to have an API, CRUD. Right, with the listing.
Right.
We want to leverage events, right? So I know Ampt has the events portion to kind of pub sub and just test out complex data structures, real-time notifications, CRUD data, and storing that data, right? And potentially mapping it. But every time I try to do the UI, I kind of get stuck, but we'll.
Well, this shouldn't be a test of your JavaScript skills or your coding skills.
Yeah,
so I will help out as much as I can. I do find that's one of the things that always frustrates me, like with live coding. It's like, I mean, I'm a great developer when nobody's watching. But when somebody's watching, suddenly everything becomes a lot harder. So
and I do make sure to differentiate when it's my coding inability versus the actual tool. So. Right. Cool. So let's start with just a simple folder, right? So let me just go to Git, and yes, I use Windows. I always call this out, and we're gonna do GPS tracking Ampt, and I'm just gonna open this folder and again, and I haven't looked at the get started. I don't know if this is where I should be starting, but I just always want to. Get started.
It's a very good place to start.
Yep. So. Once I just wanted to have VS Code open over here. And there it is. Cool. Let me make this smaller. Zoom in, because then I forget. And we're good to go. So let's go back to the docs. And let's get started. So pretty typical to start like this. npm install, right? So I do think I have it, but let's make sure I'm up to date. So let me just do no, it's just Ampt, right? Yeah, Ampt.
Oh yeah, if you do.
How far behind am I, Jeremy?
Well, so if you run Ampt, so just type it in, just type in Ampt. It should check for a CLI update automatically for you.
Oh.
And then update it so that you're always on the latest version of the CLI. Yeah.
I would love for Sam to do that for me when
I'm
always behind.
It was early feedback that we got, and actually it was funny because when we were building this and we were like, okay, now, somebody had something and it was like we couldn't publish changes to the CLI, like the APIs behind the scene, because the CLI would get out of date. So that's why we changed it. Okay. So you can skip I would skip for now. So actually this is newer than the documentation, but we just added a little tutorial thing. So it's up to you if you want to do that or not, but that'll actually create a separate project. So whatever, it depends what you want to do. I mean, I'm going to be a fly on the wall.
This seems super convenient. If you weren't here, I would press yes. So let's do yes, right? And just follow that.
See what happens.
Enter the name for your app, I guess. Yeah, okay. So it defaults to, I don't know, what did it default to?
It defaulted to your username and then Amp tutorial or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
GPS tracking Ampt.
All right, and just remember you're going through the tutorial process now, so this is going to walk you through a tutorial, but that's okay. You can always clear it out later. Just give it a try. See, I'm not gonna say anything. Just go. Why did it fail?
Non-empty. Oh,
Oh,
it
did you?
tried this one and it wasn't empty because I pulled Git, so it had the Git folder.
Oh, okay.
Like,
That's why. Yep.
that's my bad. I should have
No.
selected. I should have selected. Well, no, I should have selected the on a new directory, and it did ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but we have the fallback. You must be logged in. Okay, so I am logged in, and I guess I had an old session already
Yeah,
going
hold
on.
So, yeah, I think you're already logged in. So I don't know where you are right now, though. So it's installing dependencies. Because it did actually pull. I guess it did pull that for you, right?
Yeah, it is here. I guess it tried to push something.
Maybe. Checking for package updates. Okay, so all right, enter a name for your app. Try. Yeah. Sorry, and I'll stop talking.
You're good. So I think, let me see, enter, let's try it again, right? So just, let's see what happens. If not, I'll clear it and get back to it. So it's syncing. It seems to, let me go back to Ampt. And again, this is the console from Ampt. I'm already logged in with Google, right? So, or GitHub.
GitHub, maybe.
So yeah, it was GitHub. So here's the app, and yeah, it did automatically sync, right? And that's something you did mention. It's everything is synced, right? And that's, I'm a very, very much pro cloud development person. So anytime I can, I want to sync with the cloud, and Amp seems to be like that at the beginning, and that's super helpful because I've tried to do stuff locally for serverless, and it's not that nice. Cool. So we got environments. It created a sandbox environment for me. There's parameters. I'm assuming I can set like constants or any constant throughout the application. Secrets, maybe.
That's what they are. Parameters are secrets. Yeah. They're encrypted,
okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Groups, parameter groups. Okay, and we'll dig into these. Nice. Okay, so I'll take a step back, right? Let's just navigate a little bit in the AMP console. So we were in the apps. There's templates. So these are getting started templates. Full stack. I see options here. Oh, let me zoom in a little bit. So like you mentioned, Next.js, Astro, Nuxt, a lot of stuff supported out of the box, backend, Express, Restify, Hono, Nest, and pure front end, Angular, React, Vue. Cool. So these are starter templates,
Right.
which you can simply run. I'm going to click on one, see what happens. What was new? Okay, it showed that.
Yeah. So
since I'm zoomed in, it doesn't
right,
show
yeah.
the transition.
But you basically just type in amp -- template and then the name of the template, and it gets you where you need to be. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we'll dig into these as we're developing. Settings. So I got my name, title, or basically my profile. Billing. I'm on the free tier.
You're actually on a legacy tier. Just that's why if you scroll up to the top, it'll tell you there, thanks for being a beta tester. So we kept a lot of the people that joined very, very early. We kept them all on just as legacy beta tester users. So there's quite a bit of stuff that you can do.
Cool. And then quotas. So it resets every 2 days. And this is AI.
That's your AI quotas. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay, cool. And okay, buy additional quota. I was just going to ask, can you buy like blocks for this separately than what you have based on your just base usage plan?
Yeah, and the AI quota stuff is just like, look, it's not us. It's just super expensive. So
yeah,
if you're doing a lot with AI, like we can only give, we give you a little bit. So I think we like with this plan, the basic plan is like, get 40 cents or so every month of usage. So it's not a lot, but then you can buy more. And then if you're on a higher plan, you get more stuff.
it's expensive processing, right? So
And
it's understandable.
Andrew Robinson says, does AMP handle the local environment config, or is that handled through whatever UI framework you use? So local environment config in terms of if you're talking about like if you're using Next.js or some of that stuff. So maybe I'm answering, hopefully this answers your question. So the CLI, when you like start up a Next.js app, like an existing Next.js app, it'll go ahead and create like an entry point for you and do a couple of quick configurations, but nothing runs locally, right? So it takes whatever it does, and then it will take that and ship that to the cloud. So pointing to the back end. Yes. So the way that it works is you will get, real time here. So you will get a URL. Actually, you can probably show that, Andres, if you click on apps, and then go to that, and you'll see that there's a URL. So that is that URL to that sandbox. So your back end, you make changes to that back end, and you can go ahead and just put that URL in, and there's a environment variable locally that will give you that URL that you can use as part of that configuration to connect. And actually, there's even something cooler. I don't know if we'll get into this, but if you run it through our dev mode, then basically you can run your local build server, your local development server, like your Next.js server or your Remix server, whatever. You run that in what we call the Ampt context, and then what that does is that then gives you access to any scripts that you run that are backend scripts that run in those full stack apps. Those will actually connect to the backend resources for you. I don't know if I explained that very well, but we'll keep going, and maybe it'll make more sense as we go through.
Cool. Yeah. So then basically, you don't need a local config, right? You have the config to connect, right? With you're doing a sort of like an SSO kind of thing, right? So you log into Ampt and everything's synced. Sort of like I do a lot of Samsync, right? And it's syncing. I've seen you use this, and this is way faster than that. So we'll see that once I actually build something. So we were in limits. Here it is, app limit, environment limit. So yeah, here 10 environments, 100 apps. Members, a single member. I'm the owner. Here I am. API keys. Is this for your CLI to authenticate to the Ampt API? So if I want to do things directly with your APIs.
So you can use you can generate an API key so that you can use your own CI/CD system to interact with the CLI. So if you wanted to build, your own CI/CD process, like you want to use GitHub Actions or something like that to do the deployments, you can do that, and you can use that API key, and then that will go ahead and authorize you to do that. So and you can run it. You can use that API key locally if you want to run some local scripts to do some stuff for some coordination.
So if you have like a web app and you're running sort of like Cypress automation tests and stuff like that, you can spin up a sandbox environment, run the test, spin it down. Cool.
Yeah. And we use that. We use these API keys to build like the dashboard, for example. Like we have that through GitHub Actions because we do a bunch of other stuff, and so it's part of a number of other runs. But we can then use that API key to deploy the different stages of the dashboard, all with that API key. So it's super flexible. Just makes it nice. It's just a handy thing so that you can add more automation if you don't want to use other stuff that's built in.
Cool. We already saw a little bit of the parameters.
So let me explain parameters quickly, because I just want to make sure this so that it's a little bit clear, because it's basically a secrets management system. And what it does is we have org level parameters. So you're in your organization right now. So this would apply to every app that you create. So let's say that you want to create a param that's called, like, I don't know, whatever. You maybe have an API key for something that you want every app you have to have that API key. You can create that here, and every app will get that parameter. It will inherit that parameter. Then within each app, you can override the parameters that are set at the organization level, or you can create new parameters that are just app level parameters. And then in every single instance, or what we call environments, you can those secrets are inherited, but then you can actually override those at the individual instance level or the environment level. So what that gives you the ability to do is to say, look, all of my environments by default, I want to use this dev key into SendGrid or something else, but then in my production, I want to use this particular key. And then what's even cooler about it is you make a change at any level. right? So if I change an app level parameter and I've got 50 environments using it because I got 40 developers and staging environments and previews, that will go ahead and automatically push an update to every single one of those live environments for you. So you don't have to go and like refresh the app manually or trying to figure that out. So you can use it for really cool things like feature flags or like, and there's so many cool things you can use it for, as well as having those secure secrets for you.
So they're like, if you're in like a UI app, is it subscribed to something where it will push that update automatically, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's all because we know everything's mapped, right? We have the whole sort of, you know, mapping built out on the back end, so we know where everything is. So if we know that a particular app in an instance of that app or an environment of that app is using that, we can go ahead and push that automatically to it without refreshing everything. You don't have to redeploy; it just updates the parameter for you.
Nice. Okay. Cool. And I like the overriding at this level, right, for per environment. And again, if you're running CI/CD, I'm assuming you can pull it, update it in that specific environment and all that. Right. So cool. Just the region, always. Yep. I like to live on the edge. So every live stream I run on US East 1. Let's see. I've been
always the new stuff.
I've been fine every Friday live stream, so we'll hope we'll still be fine.
And something interesting as well about the way that regions work is you have a default region at your organization level. We support, I think it's 6 or 7 regions right now, around, you know, AWS regions. We'll support more in the future, but again, like we just wanted to kind of cover different parts of the world. But the cool thing about regions is when you deploy an instance of your application or an environment, instance is our old word, that's why it's stuck in my brain, but an environment, right? Just people, I think, get that a little bit better. Every time you deploy an environment, you can choose what region you want that in. And so if you have like a production environment that you want to deploy in US East 1, but then you want to do the same thing in, EU West 1 or something like that. You can deploy the same exact app into 2 separate regions. They're managed separately, so they'll show as separate environments. But if then you could hook them up to like a, global DynamoDB table, or maybe you're using Fauna or some other, third-party system, that replicates for you. You could connect to that, and then based off of the environment, you could change the parameter to know which one it's supposed to connect to, and so forth. And so you can do multi-region very, very easily with this as well, if you want to. I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, it's just it's there. It's already built in.
Yeah, and it's kind of talking about it's not just for like pet projects and stuff like that, right? So it has the resilience, the availability. You can provide the availability that you need with replication and all that, right? You can have an active environment. If US East 1 goes down, I can have my things over here in case I need it.
That's right.
Cool. Okay,
and then
that's good.
Git was the last one. Yep.
And this one, install the Ampt GitHub app. So I'm assuming you have a GitHub app there to provide features within GitHub to do some cool stuff.
So you make a change, you push something to main, it'll automatically deploy that for you to whatever stage you want. You can set up preview deployments. So if you you pull it, you do a PR, it'll automatically generate and deploy a version of it into a PR branch. So yeah, that's all that CI/CD is built in for you.
Beauty. Okay, and last one is billing. You say this one is relatively new, right?
Yep.
And it gives you a deep breakdown. Again, I had some apps running from a while ago, but you can see, I mean, this falls well within the free tier. And I like this because I logged in yesterday. I was like, oh, what is this? I never put in a credit card, but there's charges. So it falls within the free tier.
Yeah.
But you can see what's Lambda functions, what's DynamoDB, what's S3. So all that breakdown. And you mentioned the daily usage. And people love to see these types of graphs, right? So you can see I deleted these at some point today or yesterday.
I think you deleted them yesterday. Yep.
Yeah. So they go away. Cool. Okay.
And by the way, we have 12 months of history too. So you can go back and see 12 months of usage. You must have launched these apps originally in February. So you probably didn't create anything until February. But then, so then you can go in and you can see all the charges. And again, you see what we're using for services, right? So key management service in order to, to do certain, I think we use that to actually do, secrets
encryption,
management,
right?
for some of the encryption thing, not for the secrets, but another thing we use. But then you got CloudWatch events, you got S3 that's storing, data. All your apps, versions of your apps are stored in S3 as packaged archives. We use SQS. CloudFront is automatically there for you. Yeah. So, and again, most of the stuff you only get charged if there's some sort of usage. So like Lambda and SQS, like we do some monitoring for a couple of things. So there are a few sort of charges. I think it costs about 21 cents a month to run an environment with no usage. But then, again, we're working on ways too to even reduce that by like not having some of that monitoring if it's not active and some of these other things.
And I think I saw a post probably last year or something, right? But the kind of self-directing or architecture, right? Where if it's not efficient to run in Lambda,
right,
you switch it to some other type of infrastructure. Is that actually
Mm-hmm.
live? Is that something y'all are doing?
Yeah, so we do that manually now. But there's three different types of compute platforms that we use. So we use Lambda by default, right? And we deploy. It's basically just deployed as a Lambda lith, right? And it's still super fast. And there's all kinds of debate on should we split things up into separate Lambda functions, stuff like that. It's crazy efficient to run a Lambda lifts, and it's so powerful now. Like that's what we do by default. If you want to run a long running task that's going to run for more than a few minutes, actually, if you set your timeout for more than a minute, we'll actually just deploy it to Fargate as a Fargate task for you. And so that'll run as long as you need it to run for. And then if you're doing an API and those API requests are getting kind of high, then we can actually switch you over to App Runner with just a click of a button behind the scenes in the console for us. We eventually want to make that automatic, but again, it's one of those things where it's sort of you have to start generating quite a bit of traffic in order to justify, because it's like $60 a month to run an App Runner container, to have sort of the base level of that running. So you need to have some significant traffic before you kind of get to that point. But a lot of that stuff, the Fargate and the Lambda for tasks, that's automatic depending on how long you set the timeout for. But there's a lot of dynamic stuff that we want to add, and because we have the capability to do it, but it's again, we're still experimenting. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to do it,
Cool. Yeah, and AJ Stunyenberg, he had a live stream this last weekend, where he was basically deploying the same handler and Lambda and Fargate and App Runner, and just kind of keeping the same structure within all of this. Yep. I still haven't watched it, but it should be interesting, right? And kind of what you want to do, right? If you were to be able to manually calculate and shift the load to something that will be cheaper for everybody, because what's cheaper for us is cheaper for you, and it's just it's a better world.
Andrew Robinson asked another question. Can you configure a domain for your app through Ampt? Yes, you can. Custom domains, you can have as many custom domains as you want to. That automatically creates the SSL certificates and all that stuff for you. All you need to do is have a domain provider if you want to do a naked domain or an Apex domain, then you do need to have a provider that supports the I think it's called A record aliases, aliases or whatever. So you can use, if you're using Route 53, then that's obviously built in, but there's several other ones that do it as well. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So much interesting stuff. But now let's actually try and build something.
Let's build it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see what it deployed here. So I'm just going to navigate, assuming I know where I'm at. So there's index, it has Hono.
Yeah, this deployed that the tutorial app for you. So that's what this is that tutorial app.
Has a bunch of stuff. So you got scripts, and and I'll just navigate the code out loud, right? So this is importing the data module, which is what I'm assuming communicates with the database, which in places is DynamoDB. So data get, and I remember looking at this a long time ago, right? So you got kind of this name spacing, which is basically you're naming your entities, right? And here you're telling it load to do, load all of them, right? Load everything there.
Yep.
Cool. Looping through it, console logging. Let me see. So here, then, I'm assuming I have an endpoint already deployed that should be just the root. So let's see. Let's open. I got Postman here. My session expired. This always happens. Let me go to Thunder Client. So if I do a get to the root, do I get something? And more dev amp tutorial.
So you're getting you're getting the because when it's deployed, because you got that error, it kind of So you're well, if you actually go to, that's the index for /get. So actually this is running all as there's no, I don't think there's any static files, right? If you go over to your directory again and look in that static folder, static. Oh, just the amps. So I mean, you could load this in a browser and see what it does.
That's true.
Yeah,
if it's a get with no. Nah, it's a new. Okay, that says my firewall, my company. So this is a new domain, so it's gonna block it.
Oh, so you can't? Can you not get by that?
I'm trying to think. Maybe not. Oh, firewalls, security, always getting in the way.
Yeah, they always get you. Yeah. If you
Okay,
just had everything just a star permission in IAM, it would just be so easy, you know?
If we actually, because I can change this to not be HTML, right? And just do plain JSON.
Right, you could, there's all kinds of things you could do there. Yeah.
So just do, we all love the hello world. And then let's have, am I missing something?
So you can't just, you have to return, so do c.json.
Oh, okay.
Because this is Hono, so that's just their format, right? So just c.json, and then that should, now you should get that.
Okay. So now if I go to Thunder Client, send this hello world. Yeah. Okay. Simple enough. So we got it started.
And by the way, just so you know, when you save that on your local machine, and then you went over to Thunder Client and you hit,
Oh yeah, I just assumed everything. Yeah.
You're calling an AWS account. This is all running on AWS. So basically, if you go back to your index file there, and you've got I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you get some stuff kind of the CLI on see, it's showing you these last sync things. But if you just make a change, like change hello world to hello.
I'm gonna try and be as quick as possible and see if I can catch it before it reloads.
There you go.
The file save takes 3 seconds. I have autosave.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you change something,
boom.
And if you hit Control
it's almost immediate.
It should take less than 300 milliseconds for that to happen. So people are like, oh, well, when you have to wait like 7 seconds for it to deploy a Lambda function, like it's a pain and whatever, no, this just runs. And then there's another thing. And look, I will tell you this, I really, really like the live Lambda testing stuff that SST does. And there was a thing that Thundra used to have that allowed you to do that. And I think they're doing something now with Amplify that's allowing you to do sort of a live, maybe it feeds. Oh no, who just did that is Serverless Inc. just added the ability to do step through debugger. So I love that. I think that's super cool, especially if you need to debug code, but you're still running that application code locally on your machine with whatever quirks your machine might have, whatever version of Node you're running, all this kind of stuff. And I think that's awesome to do that. But what's really cool about this is that you're then running on the exact infrastructure that this will run everywhere else, right? So it's you're getting that fidelity. So that's what we tried to do with this. I know people love step-through debugging and some of those other things, and I think that's a really cool feature. We're going to look at trying to add something like that as well. But you just have, this is ultimate high fidelity. What you see is what you get in whatever environment you deploy this to.
That is that is pretty cool because it, like I said, it was almost immediate. So I'm doing.
By the way, yeah, do that.
There it is.
And that's
right?
that's your environment name.
Cool. Okay. So now we're cooking. And yeah, it didn't take me much. I mean, I just followed the tutorial. I had a non-empty folder, so it kind of broke it a little bit.
Gave you the protection to not overwrite that folder.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let me go and open the Open API spec of what I actually need to build. So let me close this. I got the Open API, and we're gonna preview. It's Swagger. So here we have the CRUD, and then we're gonna post data points, right? So let's start with the post. It's just gonna take a name. We're gonna generate an ID, a UUID or a ULID. Store it in the database. Send the ID back, right? That's session created. There's no schema for the response. Alan, if you're watching this, I'm disappointed. But usually 201s return an ID, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to take in a name, save it. So I'm going to have a post endpoint with a sessions path. Let's just do that. I'm pretty confident I can get this. It seems simple enough. So I'm going to leave, as usual, when you start with the template, you got to leave all the template stuff, right? People love that. So I'm going to do post, and then it's going to be sessions. And then this is, let me make this better. So am I actually using the to-dos anywhere? Okay, this is not going to break.
You would not, no. So you can, you can get rid of that.
And we have
if you were starting from scratch and you just did the basic Hono thing, then you would be, you wouldn't have all that extra stuff.
And let's see how good AI is with, like, got Copilot or Q. I don't know which one I got enabled right now, but let's do Ampt. And this is data, right? And this is
because you did form, not you could do from.
You see, this is why I love people looking.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it's data. Yeah. Okay.
You just created and connected to a DynamoDB table.
So I wanted to pull up the docs, right, just to make sure. And I have you here. Well, the best documentation someone can have. But it's Ampt data. Your data is just set there, right? So right now, did it actually create it? And this is just curiosity, not that I should care or need to care, but it created a DynamoDB table for me. Or
by default, Ampt environments have a database, a table deployed automatically for you with some GSIs, just so that you don't have to wait for that. But yes, so essentially when you do that, you're creating and connecting to a DynamoDB table.
And I'm assuming it's single table, right? Because
single table design,
like the namespace is kind of like the prefix for the suffix or the SK and stuff like that.
Correct.
And you did mention by default, I guess, just out of the box, and what you get is 5 GSIs, right? I think it's at one of your live streams you mentioned that. Cool. You can get, set, remove, and I'm assuming these are the commands that I get from the data module. Getting started. Did it install all this for me? I'm assuming, and here. Cool.
I think you already would have Ampt data installed, although it's showing.
This is spell checking.
Okay.
Since I use this, I should disable it for some files, but then all my variable names are going to be wrong. So
right, exactly.
It's helped me. It's like, description is a hard word to type correctly. I'll tell you that. Okay. So let's see, data. Let's see what we get here. Yeah. So all npm install ULID just to generate a UUID. Since we need to return that, or does Ampt create when you save something? Does it create an ID for you?
It does not. No, you use a namespace or a collection, what we call a collection, and a key, or just a key, either one, and that is completely up to you. So you have complete control over the shape of your data.
ULID. Okay, it's not used. Cool. So, cons ID equals ULID dot
I think it's just a function. I think it's just a function.
No.
Oh, do you need ULID.ULID?
I can do this. I know I can.
That's
do
what I
this.
was thinking. Yeah, that's what I typically do, and then you can just call ULID
Yeah.
as a function, right? Yeah.
And then we're gonna do. Look at that data set, and then we're taking in a name. Does that come in as part of this context? And I know you know Hono.
Yep. So that's Hono, right? So just so you can see, I jump over to the Hono documentation quickly, and I'll show you just where this is. But again, this is just Hono, right? So this isn't us. This is just how Hono works. But if you go over to docs, and then go under, I think it's API. It'd be under API on the left. Routing, maybe try routing. Or Hono request, actually. Sorry, Hono request would be under. So over on the right, you see that you've got param, query, all those different things. So what does the spec say? How is it taking a name? Is it taking a name as the body?
The body, yeah.
Okay, so then that's what you do. So you just do body equals await c.rect parse body.
Interesting. Okay, so let's do that.
Yep.
Await. I need to make this async.
There you go.
Cool. I'm going to assume, let's try this just to throw an error. So if body dot, I knew I was, is it listening to me?
Must just be guessing.
If this does not exist, and I'm going to jump back to the documentation just so people know how I work. So throw new exception. So I'm going to do 404. Usually, and is this how you would validate like API specs? I'd
use Zod. I would use Zod and create a schema for whatever it was that I was hoping to validate, and then I would just use safe parse. HTTP exception. Yeah,
I need this whole line. Yeah, the package. Yeah, it's what I do with API Gateway. It's I feed it the Open API spec, and it generates all the models for me.
Yeah. There's some cool features around that.
Let me just add this to the freaking. At the end of the day, everything's going to be in my dictionary.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so throw new exception. This is a 4.0. Man, I'm blanking out. A bad request is 400.
Yeah.
Name is required. So at this point, even without, this shouldn't save the database, but if I go back to Thunder Client, I change this to a post, sessions, and I'll send hello. Oh, that's the response. So I'll send hello world. This should, man, so many consoles. Go down. No, you don't.
You can zoom out a little bit. I think people can
There's my
see.
bad request. Name is required. I don't know how to spell.
I didn't catch that.
There we go. Cool. Okay. Let's add an exclamation mark here.
There you go. People should know, right?
And then, okay, now let's actually save the data. So it takes in, does it usually take an ID as part of the parameters?
So jump over to the AMP documentation quickly, just so rather than me trying to explain it, we can show more visually. So if you go over on the right and you just do setting items, there's setting multiple items, but go down a little bit to setting. Keep going down. Sorry, just scroll down on the right there. Yeah, keep going. No, where's setting items? Did I miss it?
I did setting multiple items. Existence? No.
Where is it? Getting items. Oh, storing single value. Right? Yeah. Sorry. Storing single values. There we go. Okay. And then actually, we're gonna do storing. We're gonna do storing objects. So either one. But basically, the idea is that you set some sort of an ID, right? So that is the key for what you're storing. And so you can set a single value. So you could just set the ID itself of that particular session if you wanted to, or if you wanted to be able to list all the IDs. It all depends on your access patterns. Again, we can't make distributed systems easier in terms of the concepts, right? Like you still have to know some of these concepts. So single table design, it depends on what you're doing for your access design. But I think for the purpose of what you're doing, I think it's perfectly fine just to set the ID itself. So if you jump back to the code, my only suggestion here would be is that rather than just setting ID, where the first parameter there, or first argument, rather than just setting ID, maybe do something like call it like session pound ID. Yeah, there you go.
So
wrap that in
typical.
backticks. Yep. And then $. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that will go ahead and set, that'll create something in the database called session pound and then your ID. And then that way you can access that later.
So DynamoDB knowledge is recommended. Again, if you want more advanced, if you're just the ID, you don't care about the entity okay.
Right, and now this has nothing to do with Ampt, but just because I'm going to be a little critical of the way that DynamoDB, of how I would design this data. You're using a ULID, right? So if you actually did session : right, instead of session pound, so leave that in. So do session : what you're doing now is you're creating a partition called session, and then your ID is that OLID, that ULID, right? So now you can actually sort your sessions by when they were created if you store them this way. So like, again, this is not really an Ampt thing. It's just sort of like a data design thing. But that's what I would probably do. And then there's some other things. So there's a couple other things we can do as well. But basically you just need to create a key. So how you retrieve that key, you just need to know, again, sort of what,
how you structure
how do you store it? Right.
Or
exactly.
Your access pattern. So that's still a valid design item in your list. Is got to know how you're going to access the data based on the storage that's being used, and it's not going to be you're not going to be doing random joins and wheres and all that. So keeping it to the NoSQL
you're
world.
Using Dynamo you have to know what type of database you're actually using. So
I need a name.
Yep, we need to name it, right? So name is body.name. Yep. And
question here. So in the documentation, you do mention, I guess it's in beta. Now I'm remembering the SQL. You're using Neon, and for that, we did have a live stream. One of the first live streams I did with Alan was around Neon. So pretty cool database, but that's in beta, right? So not something. Would you define it differently here for that?
Yeah, so data. So actually, you would use SQL. You'd pull in a different module called amp/SQL, and that's a whole different thing. I mean, the thing that's nice about that is we create the databases for you. We make the connections automatically for you. If you're doing like a production thing, the reason why it's still in beta is because it's just, I mean, it works really, really well. It's just like, we tried to do it because we wanted to make it really easy for people to do relational data. And it is really useful, to do that, but there's just more that we would love to do around it in terms of different types of configurations, different ways to do migrations. Like, the data is a hard problem to solve. You know what I mean? And so there are a lot of really good services out there that you can use to manage your data. Obviously the DynamoDB thing built in is just so nice to use. So we got pretty far with the SQL stuff. You certainly can use it, but also if you want to use Postgres and you want to use, you want to use Neon, you could just set up your own Neon account and then just point your stuff with parameters to it too. So
it's just code at the end of the day that you have here. So you can import, and it's JavaScript, so you can
whatever
import
you want.
library.
It's an execution environment, and we give you a couple of really great modules and interfaces to do some other things. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now, will this work, Jeremy? Am I that good of a coder, or is it the tool?
Just remember that you do need to await any sort of asynchronous call. So, all right. I mean, I didn't say, I was just pointing that fact out. So, but yes.
I was gonna not get a response and then get the response the second call. Usually what happens. Okay. So, and there's no way to navigate the data in the console, right? It's by code.
I mean, if you went to the console, I don't know. Let's see. If you went to the console,
let me just trigger one.
Oh yeah, maybe do the request first. Sure.
So this is still failing. So now I'll do name, this is the session name. So let's do and more dev, right? So
Sure.
send, name is required. And I'm pretty sure this must be a coding issue, but request parse body. Do the logs show in the terminal? That would be interesting to see.
What happens.
Okay. I'm going to assume it's synced already. And go make this bigger.
So I think you should see those logs, but I think it's because of
there it is.
Okay.
It's transform failed. Okay, so I've been getting errors with just M name. Okay, this is because I had removed the environment name. I'm not using
right.
It, right.
Right.
So
you're not using that. Yeah. So body isn't coming back for some reason. So you're not getting...
Let's see. It might not be JSON body. It is JSON.
So I think that what you're posting is when you the body, I think, is actually trying to read in maybe the form vars. So again, this is this is not Ampt. This is obviously Hono. So go back, go over to Hono request again, just to double check.
Hono request.
And so parse body is, click on parse body. Just make sure that you see await c.rec body, and you copied that in. If it's doing files, multiple files.
Interesting.
Try over on the right. See, it says JSON. When you click on, I'm just wondering if body is
parsing the request body of type application JSON.
Okay, so that's what you're probably doing. Yeah. So.
Oh, where am I? So parse. So this, right? It was just like this.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep. Okay.
Because I think the other way it's parsing a post body.
Okay. Let's send.
Yay!
We got a first requirement done. Cool. Okay. So that saved it. Let me go back to the console because where is it? So apps, GPS tracking. Click on my nice.
Yeah, the dashboard is not mobile friendly, so just zoom out a tiny bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so here's the session. Cool. Okay, the ID is. What did I do?
You just opened up. You're just viewing that item. Yeah.
That item. Okay. Yep. Created and modified. And do I have access to this metadata from the?
You
because
do.
one of the requirements says new session is created and must store the creation timestamp and an active status. So we missed the active status, so we'll get that. Then return an identifier to the caller.
Okay.
So back to here. I mean, but at this point, this is active true, right?
Yeah.
Save it, generate a new one, and we should see it almost immediately. No little refresh button, so get all items.
It refreshed automatically. Yeah, it will push. The dashboard updates a bunch of stuff, so you can see it automatically. So, yeah. So now
does it handle booleans?
It does, but if it's not showing there, try clicking into the item. Just I think that
it's this one.
Yeah, click into either one. So it is saving it there. For some reason, I guess it's just not rendering in that. It's not rendering there for some reason. That's weird. But it should be.
And it might be the close-up. I always blame. No, it's not the.
No, it's not that. It might just not be picking it up there. So a couple different things that that we could do if you want to just have some tips on how we could maybe even improve this a little bit. If you go back to your code and we go back to where you're setting this. So capture the output of the set in a variable. So let's call this, whatever you want to call it, set response. and then equals that. Okay, and then after that semicolon there, after the curly brace on line 31, right where your cursor is, between the curly brace and the paren, put a comma, and then type in true. All right, and so what this will do is this will tell it to load the metadata. So that's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it is replace true with an object. So curly brace, open curly brace, and then type in meta : true.
True.
So you can do it that way as well. And actually, if you do it this way, then you can send in all. So you can, there's either the benefit of just saying true, so you can get the metadata without having to put a whole thing in, or you can do all the different options that you have. So now for the set response, now take that set response and you can either log it, or you could output that as part of the JSON. Since there is no output response, or there's no output spec, you know, you could just.
It has the ID, but we can go crazy with whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and do that. Now create a new request. Yep. All right. So now you get your set response and you get the key, you get the value that stores all that data, and you get your created and your modified date. Nice.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Now, if you had done that without the meta set to true, then that set response would just be set to what's in the value field.
So the key and value, these two?
Yeah, that only comes back in the created and that other stuff. That only comes back when you retrieve the metadata. Otherwise, okay. You know, you can do, you just get the value back. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And here it is. This one doesn't.
No, it was the last one.
Can I delete from here?
Yeah, absolutely. You can delete multiple ones at once.
We need a CRUD app, so let's do the delete now. Okay, so I'm now just going to delete this one. We don't need it.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Delete. Then it's, now I need a copy. Okay, it's the path. So it's going to be, thank you.
I love when it just guesses.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, it didn't assume this one correctly. It didn't like this.
I think that's wrong. It's C dot per. I think it's C dot params. Yeah, you can check the documentation. I think it's C dot rec dot params actually. Params the top. Yeah, top on the right. Yeah. C dot rec dot param. Yeah, not params.
There we go. That will load got your the ID and then data. I'm assuming it's a full delete.
It's actually removed because delete's a reserved word in Dynamo. I mean, sorry, in JavaScript.
I don't need meta. Well,
there's no meta option because you're deleting it, so you'll only get back true if it was deleted, I believe, is the response. Yeah.
Okay, and it's returning, I guess, the ID. Doesn't matter. Okay. Let's try the delete. So I want to delete, where's my console? This one. Is it just this, or is it the full key? It's the full key. This is what I provided as the ID.
Yep. Yeah. But so what you can do is, actually, I think you're doing it. No, so go back to your code. I think you did it right anyways. You've got remove session : and then the ID. Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do. So all you have to do is pass in the ID, and then you've handled the collection namespace in your code.
Well, I can't take credit for this. Copilot did it for me.
Well, I mean.
Okay, so back here, I'll add a new. No, how do I do a new request? Thunder client, come back. Now we're gonna do delete with shiny hack. And then the session ID I copied here.
Oh, you don't need the session : though in your URL there. Yeah, get rid of that part. So you just want to do session / and the session ID.
But hold on, let me go back because we provided ID, and then this is just the partitioning.
That's the full key name with the collection and the key name. But then if you go down to where you created your delete code or your delete endpoint, see what when you do remove, you're passing in the session there. So all you need is the ID, right? Yeah, and that's what you would want, right? You want that
plainer.
That you want hidden from the users, right? You just want want them dealing with that. Yep, and then
Yeah, I was
Go
gonna
ahead
say, well, yeah, the URLs are gonna be nasty, but no, it makes sense. Okay, so send delete response is true. Okay, as you mentioned, we got a 200 and okay, automatically refreshed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got let's do the read, and I think we can go faster on these. So app.get, let's do sessions, just sessions, async.
And this is getting all the sessions? Is
Yes.
that what's the spec? It wants to get all the sessions?
Yeah, so it's the list.
Oh,
so
okay,
this,
yep. It's not
this
list,
would be
it's just going to be get. Yeah.
get, and the list is basically, yeah, with the star, right? So you're telling, get me this, all of them.
Give me everything in that partition. Yep.
Get get session ID. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, that nailed it. That's exactly what you need.
Just use the tools that you have at hand.
They're there.
Okay,
right.
so new request. That's the one we deleted. So let's get this ID. So it's gonna be Shiny Shack Sessions, and then the ID. It got my session. Oh, this is so nice. And then
and just so, and again, if you want to just go quickly back to your code, if you want to get that timestamp that it was created, you can do that as well by just telling it you want to retrieve the metadata. So right after the on line 60.
it's over here.
Yep. So just do before that close paren, comma, true, or meta true. You can do either one, however you want to do it.
Let's do it for both.
I can't see your code because it's covered with
the
drives me nuts.
I was just assuming the backspaces I needed.
Yep.
Okay, so if I do the get again, oh, there it is. Create and modify.
So a couple, like some of the things you could do. I mean, obviously the shape of the data you can control. So if you wanted to take that and basically say, okay, let's move everything in value up to the top level, and then just show the created thing or rename created, you can do whatever you want.
So I can move these to wherever I need?
Yeah, well, I mean, once the data is pulled back, you can reshape it however you want.
You have the JSON.
Right. So this is the standard response of how it comes back. So here you're getting now when you call anything with the colon and some sort of a query operator, so a star or greater than equal to, you can use a pipe to do like between times or whatever. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get back an items, an array of items, basically. So that's what you're getting. So you're getting both sessions now in this items array, and you're getting all the metadata for them. So you're seeing the key, the values, created, modify. Yeah.
And for querying, for example, I have the full basic, it's not a scan, but the scan equivalent of all the sessions. If I wanted to do like a range.
Yeah.
Let me go to the documentation. Let me do range between. There we go. Cool. So this is going to be tough because.
Or you're using ULIDs, right? So you would just need to know, but you do realize when you generate a ULID, actually with the ULID library, you can generate a ULID for a specific date. Yeah. So
that's what we do at my job. It's like, okay, you have a date filter. Okay, we created a ULID for the begins, the ends. Yeah. Okay.
And you can do that here as well.
Yeah. So I'll just keep it as we can, because I'm not going to go generate the ULID and all that stuff right now.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so we got all the endpoints. Cool.
Do we? Let's see. You have a create, read.
Okay, so the API spec. So we got the post, get. Oh, put. We need an update.
Yeah.
I'm getting lost. Okay, so now let's do app.put. See if it does it for me. No, it's not.
No,
so
keep typing.
Sessions, okay. ID. When I add the comma, it's probably going to try and async. Do it. It's thinking. It's thinking. There we go.
Okay, let's.
Sometimes
how do they do?
Patience. So
Right,
you can only update
it's
the
getting
name.
your ID. It's taking your body in as a JSON object, right? If there's no body, then it's going to say there's no body. Oh, you had body name. So again, I think it depends on what you want to be able to update, right? So name, active status, whatever you want to be able to update. So you have to add more.
If none of them. Well, I guess in an update, I'm going to require the status. Name,
yeah, you could do either way. So
name and status are required. Then it's here, ID, active. So now I would do, oh, it's active. The name is active. Active.
Body.active, yeah.
So here,
yeah, I would even use like a body.active, sure. I mean, again, like this is where like Zod would come in great, because you could just make sure they're Booleans or convert them to Booleans and some of that other stuff.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, you could do whatever you want for validation checking, right? Like that's on you. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's good enough. This is just saying you need to have, this is asking you though, that you have to have both of them. Oh, yeah, so if no body or no active that, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I would change your message to please provide a name or active status or something like that.
You're so correct. Name or active and active.
Or no, you did it or. Oh, because you're saying if either one of them is blank. If either one of them doesn't exist. Okay, you're requiring them both. Okay, yeah.
My mind works in mysterious ways.
I don't know what the spec was, is to say, do you have to be able to update either one, or do you have to like?
I don't think it says, just session details. So yeah, here, but I'm probably the schema is not going to have required or anything. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the status can be active or inactive, so we can validate that.
You set active. So you didn't set a status variable. You set active, and then I'm assuming you would do true or false. So it depends on how you want it. So you could update that. We could fix that.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I like the spec. I like the Boolean better.
Yeah, I do too. And then in terms of matching the spec, you can still spit out active or status active if true and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly.
We can still manipulate all that.
Right.
Okay, so now we're done with the base stuff, and we can test the put. So
yeah, we should test the update here.
This is the get.
Yeah.
So let me get a new request at the end with the put. Boom. Body, and we'll do name is updated session, and active equals true.
But just one thing that you're going to get is when you post JSON, I don't think, well, maybe JSON will be decoded correctly. If it was a body post, then everything would be converted to strings, but maybe JSON will work. See what happens.
Please provide name and active. Oh, it's false. So it's going to take it as false. I've learned this the hard way. So this is if
JavaScript.
Body. Yeah. So I'll change this.
Here. That makes sense. Okay, there we go.
If body equals undefined or null.
I just do type of Boolean. Probably would have been easier, but you get a bunch of different use cases. This is not an indictment of our JavaScript coding skills.
Yeah, no, this is not what we're trying to. Okay, so active false.
Not what we're trying to validate.
Yeah, no, we would fail every time if you're evaluating my JavaScript skills. So here's the updated session with the active false. Cool. So there are a few, two more endpoints. So let me just copy. Can I copy the? I can't. Okay, so this is actually added the GPS data. So
yep,
I'll just get through those. I'm assuming structure-wise, you can have several files, kind of like if you have different APIs, you would split them, and it depends on your structure. So
you can import them however you want it. Yes, I mean, it's a monolithic application. It's a way you sort of design it, and then that allows us, by doing it that way, again, it's super easy for you to use. It should be super easy to grok. You can import different, different paths and all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to do. And then it's just easier that way to go from one big one into, multiple versions if we wanted to deploy different things. So like, for example, if we deploy some of it into App Runner for you, or a task into Fargate, we just trigger the code all loads in those different ones, but then we can trigger them differently, and it's super easy. All right, so what are you doing here? You're doing the session, you're posting data. So you're now taking that data and you're saying there's lat and long. So those both have to exist. Data is required, set response. Okay, so then, that's not going to work. So
yeah, no.
What we want
to update the session. Let me. Data points.
It has to store it outside the session, right?
Yeah, it's a new attribute.
Yeah, on record. Okay, so go back to your code for a second. So let's do this. Let's do session and then do pound and then the ID name.
Session pound.
Okay, so now what we can do is that's the way we can take every data point for that session and put that into its own collection, right? Okay. And now we need a way in which to name each, because we want each record that comes in to be a separate record, time ordered, right? So I think we probably want to create a new ULID here for each time record.
Yep. Body, lat long. So we validate it. Now we do this, data ID. And then, so we don't want it to overwrite. So we do actually need.
Well, so just no. So now if you make so type ID after that. So make that where it says data right there at the end. So it's session pound ID, and then it should be $. Make that the dynamic variable right there. Make that the ULID.
This.
Yes. So make that the dynamically generated ULID. ID. So what this will do is when you post to that endpoint, it'll take the ID as the parameter and use that to create the sessions pound ID, which will give you the collection name. And then we are generating a new time, time basically variable using data ID or date sortable. And that'll become the record identifier. But now because we're using session pound and that ID, we can pull all of the data points for that one particular session and in date order.
Okay, that makes sense. And I need to provide the data. This, right?
You don't need to store that again. No. I mean, what you could potentially do is, like you might want to store the ID as the actual ID just so that you kind of can see that there.
Yeah, I usually have like the key params and then.
Right. I always double store, right? So anything I use is like if I'm using data or a value from the body or the actual content of the item, I usually will store that in the body of the item and then use that as well as part of the identifier. That way the identifiers are just, you don't have to worry about trying to parse information out of the key, you know what I mean, in order to get information.
Yeah. And then
I wouldn't use data ID. I mean, you can use data ID there, but I don't think that does us any good because we don't really care so much, I think, about the data ID.
That's true. We're not going to load the individual one. That's true.
But you might want to just save just ID itself. Just, I mean, you could save data ID as well. Yeah. Session ID. Right. There you go.
Okay. All makes sense. And Swagger, we got the post and then the get session data. So it's just going to get the sorted. Oh, I keep going to the wrong window. Okay. So then app.get, do it for me.
Literally did it for you. It's using, change the const name data because you're overwriting data with data, it just does. So data response or GPS coords or something like that.
Hey, okay. Now
you're done. You built the entire application.
So new. Now let's add data points. So I do have this one as my ID. So I still have it. And is it the same one? Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. PPW. Okay. So this data, let me get my, let's do.
Change that to a post.
Celtics stadium lat long. We'll give it to
TD
me.
Garden.
Yeah. TD Garden, I got it. So we'll put it post body, and it's lat boom lung. Here we go. Come on. This will send it. Okay.
There you go.
Simple enough. Let's go back. Where am I going? The console. Refresh. There is lat, lung. And yeah, just like Dynamo, I mean, not every field is used.
Yep.
Cool.
One thing that I would do just to make your API a little bit more efficient is there's no reason to return all of that data when you add a new data point. So you're retrieving the metadata, for example. Oh, that should be
What
data.
did I do here? Oh, because I did F2 data.
Oh, you didn't update that everywhere, did you? Did you update that everywhere?
No, I think it's in the context of this. Yeah,
oh,
it's in the
just that
context
one
of
thing.
this
Okay.
function.
Yeah. So I would get rid of meta true from here probably, and then maybe you only want to bring back like when you do get response, for example. Like I don't know. I mean that'll just bring back the data that you saved, just the value part of it. But like again, just leave it like that. Okay, it's not going to matter. I was just trying to think of like, you're bringing a lot of data over the wire for no reason, right? So
yeah,
that you're not going to use, right? Like you don't need it.
And something it does mention is we need to, well, I do have the get already here. Session. We need to validate if it's active. Right?
Oh, if it's an active session. Okay, yep.
So we would go back here, do this. I don't need this. So session ID session if session dot active, if not active, throw. Yeah, let's just keep it as 400. Does not exist. It's not a type.
So yeah, I mean, so some of the typing stuff, because of the way that we do like the meta stuff, because we serve it back two ways. So you usually have to sort of like define your own response. You know what I mean? Like you could either ignore that or I think if you set meta false, it might, will it understand?
Let's see, meta.
Try setting it as false. Yeah, because it's thinking it's probably thinking it comes back as an item. We've had so many problems with trying to get that right.
There we go.
Yeah, you could do. There you go.
That's how
it's
I work
either
with...
that or at TS ignore. Right, either one.
Yeah, they'll probably never hire me for a TypeScript role.
I will never get hired for a TypeScript role either. So I like it for basic things, and as soon as you start doing like all the weird, I don't know, it gets complex. But anyways, okay. So you're validating if the session is
yeah.
Right, so now we're validating.
It's a get, so just send. Session is not active. We were working all along with an inactive session. So where do I have my get sessions? So active true. So let's get this one. Let's add some data. Obviously I could parameterize all this. Now this one, send. And we've got the parameters, right? I really don't know how to, but I'll just do.
So hold on. What did you just do? So if you you posted to this one?
To the data, yeah, and then
okay.
Query for all the data.
Right, and then you got the response data. Yeah, so I think that worked correctly, right? So you posted the
whole more entities are like
I think your internet's slowing down on you.
Oh, really?
Oh, there you go. You're back now. Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So I think that worked, right? If you go back to your dashboard for a second.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah, your internet's super slow right now for some reason. Okay, there we go. Yep, and then just scroll down, see if you can find that latest one you put in.
Here it is. So here are both. Can you hear me fine?
I can now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little delayed now, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's that. So yeah, I mean, it's I saved a new data point and I can save another one. So I'll switch the screens. I'll make sure to slow down a bit.
No, you're good now. It seems like it's caught up. Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here's the post. So I'll change this to 40. I don't know. Send it. We should get 2. There we are.
Yeah.
If I get them, I should get 2, right?
There
they are sorted. So I could do like a limit. Let me go back. So it would be, I'm assuming it would be part of like this. Could you provide like a, there it is, query options. I'm gonna go back here. So limit, I'm assuming there's no limit. No. Pagination. Start. So there is an option name, limit. Here it is. Am I still here?
You're here.
Okay, you were super quiet. Like, oh, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm
I wanted you to see what you were going to do there. So, yeah, there you go. So that'll bring back 10. That'll bring back 10 data points.
Let me do one, right? Just for the sake of our
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So we got the 2 right here. So your standard pagination, you get the last key, so you can add.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that right now, but you can add the input as a query
something
param.
Cool. If you want to see, just go back to the documentation and click on the pagination link over on the right-hand side. It should be there somewhere, right there. So click on pagination. Okay, and then scroll down. So we provide a .next function that's built in. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you should see, keep going, and then that shows you how you could use that. So basically, you grab your get request, and then while results, and then you can just do, if there's a result.next, call result.next, and that will just keep going and going and going until you get whatever you want.
When I say that, yeah, usually when you're trying to like populate a drop down or something like that, you truly don't want pagination there, so you want to load it all. So you would do something like this.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool. And then you got filters, right? Like conditional, so like condition expressions and all that stuff. Greater than, less than. Yeah, this is what we were looking at earlier. Cool. Okay. So we're storing data points. We're getting them. We're getting sessions. It all looks beautiful. So I'm going to go back here and we're done. We're done with the API, right? Data ingestion, data reading, cradle is done. So it would take me like an hour with conversation. So not bad. It's actually pretty good.
I mean, and look, if you had known how to use Hono, right? Like, because again, I know you're new to Hono. And if you had used Ampt before, I mean, I would have built this in 8 minutes, so.
Now I can truly pump out endpoints connecting to the database, right? Obviously you have storage, right? For files and stuff. But I'm assuming it's a similar interface. You're taking data blobs. Does it do like pre-signed URLs, just out of curiosity?
Yep, you can generate pre-signed upload URLs and pre-signed download URLs. Yeah.
So it has everything you would need. Checking the comments. Okay, there's no questions or anything. Cool. That means I'm an incredible coder. So let me go back to the README. Right. So they're their own record in the database, not a collection hanging. Right. So we definitely did that. Every 10 data points, asynchronously calculate the total distance and average velocity. This is where Alan went a little bit crazy. Updating the session record. Okay, so trying to get into the async nature, right? So, let's see. When we save, before we save, let's pump out an event that I'm listening to calculate data asynchronously and store it as part of that ID that it's listening. You good with that?
Yep, but I think there's even an easier way. There's an easier way to do it. So we can just listen for data changes and then do it on data changes.
Okay, and let me go to the docs, right? So let's. It should be as part of data changes. I'm assuming there should be reacting to data changes. Definition. So data on created. So you're just listening, and it's listening to every, right? So this is, can you add filtering? And we'll get to that. Filtering by key. So yeah, let's get started and let's do a console log with data created. Yes, and we'll definitely need a filtering mechanism here. I was just thinking for a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to handle it all in the same file, right? Again, you can structure this.
Right. Any way you want.
We'll read the files and generate all of that. So is there like the equivalent, like the index HTML that's going to go and bootstrap all that? Is there the equivalent here?
Yeah, I mean, basically what you would do is if you want to create, so your index in this case, index.tsx, but it can be index.js or index.ts. In your package.json, if you click on package.json there, you're going to have a main file, which is just your entry point, right? So anything, you just point to an entry point and then you import everything into that entry point. So if you want to split things up into different folders or whatever, Hono provides a really great way to export routes and then bring them in. So you can do that. Yeah, it's structured any way you want, as long as everything is indexed or is it accessible through that index or through that entry point, then it all loads.
Yeah, so you basically have multiple files with exports and such, and then you will import them, and Ampt takes care. Okay, what did you define as main? I can name it Andres.tsx.
Doesn't matter.
And it knows it will go in there and do the magic. Cool. Okay, that question's out of the way. Okay, so I'm back in the index again.
Yep.
I'm going to do it here. I'm going to paste data on created, and we'll start with this and just console log event. And let me just do event because I like to do this.
Sure.
So we'll do this, and we're going to do this post, just a new session. And we should get, my console's being weird there. I had to click.
Because you're on a Windows machine, so that's on you. Sorry, we're all Mac people. But there you go. There's your event. You got a data change event right there.
Name created. So I'm assuming there's like an updated event, deleted event.
Updated. So there's created, updated, and deleted. Yeah, those are the three that you get there. And just if you jump back to the console quickly. Oh, and also you'll see, by the way, that previous. So you get item, which is what you just wrote, and then previous is undefined, because you'll never get, if you update something, you won't get this because you've set this to just listen for created. But if you did set it for updated as well, then you would actually see, the previous version of that record, which you can use to compare to decide whether or not you actually want to perform some action and so forth. But just jump back to the console quickly, because this is another thing that we did that I absolutely love this. This was game changing from a developer sort of experience standpoint. Click on logs up on the top there, scroll up and then click on logs. Next, right there.
And I'm opening a new tab. Okay.
Okay. All right. So now you're in logs here. So this gives you your detailed logs, including things like those data created changes and stuff like that. So if you click on that, the last one, or I don't know, any one of them there. So this one, I think, was a data, so this records like data changes. It'll show you that that data created event existed, even though you weren't listening on it. But if you go back, I think it was the last one there, all the way down the bottom. If you scroll down, and that one right there. So that's the one that is giving you the one you're actually listening for. So it just tracks all this stuff. You can see the, what you're outputting there, and We actually did some things too where you can merge it if you want to, so you can actually have like a nice, really pretty JSON view. Like we got some other stuff that are in the works, but the point is, it's all there. Oh, actually, it is kind of working. Yeah, but we like to have the message. If you wanted to have the message be JSON, there's a way that you can do that as well. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
okay,
anyways,
cool. Okay, so it's you can view everything that's happening under the hood, right? And I'm assuming this is pulling CloudWatch logs.
This is connecting directly to the CloudWatch API, so it is super fast. And we just basically create a key that gives you read-only access to your this particular environment at that time that you're accessing it. Yeah, cool. And it renews every 5 minutes or something like that.
You just did a stream around this, right? A couple of weeks ago?
It was several weeks ago now, but yes.
Yeah. So, time flies.
It does. And I've been traveling. I did 2 conferences in Europe in the last couple of weeks, and it's like hard to keep up with some of this stuff. But anyways, all right. So now you want to. So the spec says that we want to do what, right?
It's so we're listening. Where's the spec? So every 10 data points, asynchronously calculate the total distance and average velocity, updating the session record with the results. So this is where I could keep, session, I can keep a count of how many things I've received, and then when I hit 10, I calculate. I really gonna make that up. I'm not probably gonna get the math for that long right now.
In the interest of time, all right, I'm gonna show you a little trick. So go to the go back to your code, your index file here. All right, and then when we create a data point, all right, so go let's see, so where are we creating the data points?
It's
right
up
there.
Here.
Okay, so scroll up a little bit, because we're checking. Is this where we're posting the data point? I thought we were checking to see if it was a valid session.
We did for the update. I mean, we can do it here. So one sec.
Well, are we supposed to make sure it's a valid session for?
I mean, for a real app, I would think so.
All right. Well, let's do this. So copy where you do the get when you do the update. Is it it must be in the put.
Where did here it is. Session ID. This is that it's provided. Where did I do that validation?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember. Right
in
there,
the get. I did it in the wrong place, but we have it somewhere.
So when you get the data, that's the wrong place we want to do that. So we should probably fix that. Let's fix that quickly. Yeah. So just copy that out. Yeah.
I'll remove it. And then no session. Yeah, get session data.
So we want to do it when we post data, right?
There we go.
So I would put the body Latin long. There's no sense of checking if it's a valid session, and move that whole section above before you query the database, right? Like, let's not query the database if you haven't provided a Latin long. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So let's do our valid.
No need to do an API call.
Right. So lightweight validation there. Okay. So now, rather than doing session await data.get, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do await data dot. Actually, let me do me a favor. Go back to the documentation for a second.
Yes.
Just because I want to make sure you get this right, and then search for atomic.
Atomic.
All right, so
an atomic counter. Okay.
Yeah, here we go. So click on the multiple value. Well, it doesn't matter. You can scroll down. So multiple values. Right here. So what we want to do is, actually, you can do single value because we only need to do the single value, which is here. Right. So we want to say, and sorry, scroll down a little bit more because we want to make sure that we have. I think this one says you can do the nested counter. Right. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. So we do add and with a nested counter and a 5. So if you go back to your code, right, and we're going to do await data dot wait up, not go up a little bit because we want to see about the session active. Here we go. Okay, so now await data dot add. So change that from get to add.
Add.
Okay, and then and get rid of the meta false stuff. You can take out that section. We don't need that.
Oh. No, went too far.
It's the worst sometimes. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then what we want to do here is in quotes, let's type in counter, I guess, or yeah, whatever, counter's fine. And then just comma 1. All right, and then, yep, and then go ahead and let's log out what that session says after that, just so that we can see. I just want to make sure. I think it should return the entire object, but let's just double check. All right, so let's go ahead and post something to it now.
And this is the data one. I have it.
So this is when we're, yeah. All right, so just post something there. Okay, so then in the log, if we go to the log, we find those. Yeah. So we're gonna get, obviously the data change, we're seeing that, but scroll up a little bit.
Here's the HTTP.
So right there. So that's what we got back. One. Okay, now post data to it again.
Ooh, okay. Send.
Okay.
2.
Counter 2. Okay. So now we can make a single database call, right? That not only increases an atomic counter for us that will tell us how many data points we have, which we can then use, by the way, to trigger that every 10, but it will also then give us back the information to validate that it's an actual session. Now, here's the thing. If you were to change with this post here, go ahead and add something. So if you go to session up in your post URL, add like an X after the A there, after the AA for the data. So it's an invalid session. All right, now hit send. All right, and what this should do is, all right, it says session not active, so it's not found. So it's already doing all the work for us, right? So all that work is done with a single call. So we're getting the incrementer.
Is the counter getting incremented even if it failed for the call?
Well, no, because that session shouldn't have existed. So that's what I just wanted. I just want to double check. If you go if you go to the dashboard and then go into data again, I'm just curious if it created like a random record that, no, it didn't. It shouldn't have. No, it shouldn't have. So those records, yeah. So when it does the add, it can only, I believe that's how add works, is add it has to exist. You have to have the counter, the item has to exist before we'll add it. So, but yeah, so now there you go. You get your counter.
Okay, so there's the counter, and we could, can you reset the counter? Or just do a mod?
Right, you could just set, you could just set the value back to 0 if you wanted to. But you can here's how you can reset the counter. Go into your data for a second, or go into the dashboard and edit that one, whichever one you want. Edit that. Okay. So, all right. So this did do something we didn't want it to do. All right. So hold on a second. So if you go back to the Ampt documentation, sorry. All right, and then type in exists, search for exists. All right, so then click on existence checks there where it's highlighted. All right, so what this does is that using the existence check, right, it will either overwrite it will fail if the key already exists, or it will fail if the key doesn't exist, right? So what we want to do is we want to use that exists true. So copy that exists true section. Yeah, right there. Yeah. All right, and then let's go back to your code. And when we do the counter, so now do comma, and then paste in exists true. All right, so this I'm wondering if doesn't exist in add options. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this will be a little bit, I think this will be a little bit confusing, but this should work this way. So change add to set. Okay. All right. And then where it says counter 1. So what we want to do is we're pasting an update in here. So get rid of where it says counter in 1 and then put an object there. All right, so put an object there. All right, and now type in counter, and then colon. You don't need the quotes around counter because it's an object.
It's just JS.
Yeah. All right, and now you're going to create another bracket. Sorry, another object here. All right, and then you're going to type in $add.
Oh, so close.
:1. Okay, so now what that will do is that's just a way that you can do, and if you go to the documentation, you'll see you can add multiple, counter and create, by using the set and using this method here. But then this will give us access to the exist true thing. So now if we save this,
saved. So
all right, and go. Well, before you do that, go back to the database though, and just delete that record that we had created there that we didn't want.
This one. Delete.
Yeah. All right, and now try submitting that again. Try doing that request again with the X. All right, let's see what it says. Item does not exist. Okay, yeah. So now you just need to catch the error.
Yeah, which we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
Who handles errors correctly?
But basically, that wouldn't do it. Now, just out of curiosity, go back and get rid of the X in your request and just try posting. Make sure that endpoint still works when it does exist.
200. We should get a 1 here.
And
the 4. It's the same way.
It becomes a 4. Yeah. So now, if you did want to reset that counter, if you go back to the dashboard, right, you can just go in. So no, leave that. Go into the dashboard.
Oh.
Right, and then just edit that item. So click on the item there. Yeah. And then you can just actually change it right there back to 0 and then hit save.
Okay.
And that would
and we could do this by code if need
right,
be.
You absolutely. Yeah, you don't need to do
okay. So let's just listen to the event. And I do want to filter just to session events.
Yep. So go back, so check out the docs, and do filters.
Filters for no events.
Well, if you type, I'm just to find where it is. If you type in filtering by key here. So this is, you take so when you're listening, you can take the event name, key filter, or the event name, the namespace filter, the key filter, and so forth. So we want to just listen for updates because we only care about updates, right, to the main record, to the session record, because that's where we're updating the counter. So that's what we want to listen for, is when the counter gets updated, so that we can then check to see if it's a mod, if we can mod with a modulus of 10, right?
Yeah.
So if you go, so go here. So then just type in : and then it's session pound, right? And then put a star, just so it captures everything that starts with session pound, and then that should work.
Okay.
Maybe clear your.
Can I do clear in the app? Okay.
You can. Yep. Yeah. Or you can do. I always use Command K. I don't know what it is on Windows, but yeah.
Nobody knows.
So now you create a new record. So now when you hit send. All right.
Here it is. So counter 1. So now I can do, and I'll just add an if. I keep navigating through the wrong windows.
So we didn't get, that was just the HTTP requests, the session that you just got back.
Oh, that's true. We didn't get the event.
You were logging out that it was there. Okay, hold on. What did you do? Something get an error there. Why did you get an error?
I was typing something and then it refreshed with a failure.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
The autosave got me. Let me just do this again. So just the created. This one, send. So with this one, we do get the data change event.
Yeah, and then if you scroll up, you should see the other one as well.
Yeah, the HTTP. But
hold on, you're not getting the. Oh, because you're listening for. Okay, sorry. Because we did create it, and it already exists. That's right. So change that to. I think it's updated, right? Is it updated? Yeah, : session. Yeah. Now do that. Okay. Clear your browser.
Yeah, because we're creating, then it's setting the counter. The counter counts as an update, right?
You could listen for both. I mean, or all of them. All right. So did that work? So send.
No, still
just
the HTTP.
Oh, hold on. Wait, hold on a second. There's got to be something we're not doing right. Counter 4. So you get that. Go to your logs for a second. I'm just on the dashboard.
Logs.
And just do like 5. Click on the 5 minutes thing or whatever. So it's a little bit, yeah.
More fidelity. Deleted. Updated.
So session. Can you just go back to the docs for a second? It is updated, right? Is it the right thing we're listening on? Scroll up a little bit. Yeah, created, updated,
deleted.
Or deleted.
Did I type it correctly? Updated.
Updated. Yeah, session.
I'm assuming it's something with the filter.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I want to make sure that. because it is syntax.
Yeah, because here it is. I mean, we got the updated. I can do, okay, so it comes in as item. We'll skip the filter right now, but we do event.item dot value equals dot counter. Yeah, counter. No, that's not what I want. If now where I'm getting to my I don't want to print screen. If this
mod 10
equal or mod 10, yeah, that would we don't need to
10.
reset. It is how does the
just so after counter do space and then do %sign. Yeah. Just the %sign and then 10 and then equal 0 or equal 1 maybe.
Yeah, if it matches equal 1.
And that should be a divisible by 10, right? Yeah.
Console log. I'm the 10th. Let's see.
So get rid of console log. So don't log the event because otherwise we'll just get a whole bunch of noise, right? So
and let me get the other one, this one. And we go to this one, send, and logs. What'd I do?
Expected
136. Am I falling on enough?
Is it not lighting?
Let me try it again.
What did you do?
I broke it.
Broke it. It's broken. It should give you the error. Transform fail with 1 error. Expected : but found. Is it? Are we not modding right?
Let me JavaScript mod and remainder. So 13 expected output. No, okay, so let me console log the number. I do think we have that right. But then this or this would give us, let's see, and then I'll do this. Don't do mod that often.
Yeah, just comment out your if statement there, just so we don't get a failure. Because if the whole app is failing because of something, I don't think that's the issue, but you might have deleted something somewhere else too.
It would show red here, but if we send, the mod is 8.
Because the value is 8.
So let's get it to.
So send it again.
9,
mod is 9.
And 10. It should be 0. Okay, so when it's 0, equals 0. And I'm not looking at you, but I see you trying to talk.
No. I'm not talking. I'm thinking. I'm just wondering if it needs to be equal, or you need to wrap
in a parentheses.
Yeah, wrap that in parentheses.
Probably freaking out because of that.
It could be.
Okay,
yeah.
So back to our request. There we go.
There you
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Request limit exceeded. No.
There you go. On the 10. There it is.
Okay, so we're reacting to data changes in the database. Nice. And at this point,
I really do want to try. So just out of curiosity, do updated and then colon, and then just try session star. Maybe the pound sign could be throwing us off. I think that actually is the problem, the pound sign.
Okay.
So do that. So yeah, so clear out your browser again, your terminal again. Is it always? Yeah, there you go. And then do send. Why are we not getting that filter? So just out of curiosity, just change it to star. So go back and just do star : session. No, do so star : session instead of updated. No. So get rid of updated and change that to star.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
just
so do star
events.
dot session star. Yeah, try that. I don't know why.
Yep.
Why is that filter not picking up for some reason? It doesn't make sense. We got to be doing something wrong.
Yep.
All right, keep going. I'm going to look that up and figure out why that's not working.
Global item data on. Okay. I'll go back here. So cool trick there to get to respond to events based on data changes. And again, we're tracking when it's the 10th one. I'll just do updated here. And when it's the 10th, I'm calculating distance. Oh. Calculating distance. And how much time? 5 minutes. Oh, I see somebody. Should it be?
I don't think that, the session, I don't think that's right. I'm looking at, it should literally be updated : session star should work. I don't know why that's not working.
Okay.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. But, actually Maple is kind of right. So do this. All right. So do updated, kind of right. Updated : session star : star. That should work. That's what it is. Because it's a all right, try it again.
Whew. I really thought it was gonna
Come on. Well, yeah, make sure it, hold on, go look at it again. It's definitely right. I don't know why
updated session star : star.
That should definitely be right. We are calling it session. We are starting them with session, right?
Session pound. Oh,
yeah,
wait,
but I don't think it should still work. I mean, put the pound in there just out of curiosity, but it should still, because the whole point is it's a star, right? So it should work.
Yeah, it
updated
should.
Star. Yeah, that should. There's no reason why that shouldn't work.
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
We're getting it. We can filter, but something too. We'll get back to people on this one, and once we figure it out. But I do want to, if we can do some, I do want to import the events, right?
Yep.
The event.
Yeah.
Why do I have laptop? Look at that.
You imported some weird thing. Yeah. Okay. We do appreciate it, Maple, though, because you're on the right track. So what are you importing? Events? You already have so events is part of the SDK. So actually you can delete that line and what are you using events for, out of curiosity? You wanted to...
I just want to see a quick pub sub.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it would be if we're not getting a UI, right? But it's if something's subscribed and publishing the coordinates, so it's live loading a map, for example, right? That
okay. So that you would probably use WebSockets for, which you can do as well. But we're not going to be able to do that in 2 minutes. It's probably more complex. So the pub sub is for sending messages between the system, right? So if you want to send an event that then reacts asynchronously, that's what events are for. So WebSockets would be for real-time interaction with people.
Okay.
With the front end, right? Yeah. So that would be the WebSockets.
Yeah. So there would be one. We didn't use events because we're using the database events, right? So we hooked up to those, which is a system to system, right? It's within the same file, but it's system to system. And WebSocket, and it's WSS. So you would be able to subscribe from a UI and publish to this.
And what was the spec? What did the spec ask us to do? It said something like every 10 we're gonna update the distance, and then what distance are we updating?
Well, it's calculated, and I wasn't going to get into that math, but with the lat long, do kind of the distance
Oh,
differentiation
right,
between 1 point and 1 point,
Gotcha.
right? So the
Right.
idea here is, okay, when we did this, we can hydrate. So now we would do data set event item key to, and this would the set replace the whole object?
No, it only, you can, so set will do partial updates for you, right? So if you just want to say distance and something, yeah, like that's why, like when we're doing a partial update with the add, right? Then it, that works as well. So this is why we want to filter too, right? Because we want to make sure that, you know, because we don't want this to keep triggering every single time. We don't want to create an infinite loop, right? But so we would want to put some logic in there to say like,
but the counter,
you know,
oh, well, yeah, it's going to be, yeah.
well, I mean,
You're
this
correct.
actually, this would be okay because it's going to, the counter would,
It's
like
still an
this,
infinite
every time
loop.
you update it, it's going, yeah, it's going to check. So like what you could potentially do is say, we could say if item.value.counter is that, but also if the item.counter does, so yeah, so and do event.item.counter does not equal event.prev.item.counter, right? So if it's the same value, we don't want to update it again. You don't need item there, just .counter, I think, right? Isn't that what the we get event.item and then event.prev, right? So yeah, so that should work. Again, I don't know why prev isn't giving you, what is it telling you?
Or is it previews?
Is it previous? I thought it was just prev.
Let me comment this so we don't get in the loop. Do this, get the event.
Oh, we're getting an error though. There's something not right.
Boom, boom.
No, we get something broken somewhere.
I'm calculating distance. Oh, but I'm not printing the event anymore. But we're out of time.
Okay. We did so well. If we didn't spend so much time trying to figure out basic things, then we would have. But so basically so again, actually scroll back up to see what it is prev, right? Scroll back. Oh, it is previous. Okay. All right. That's why. Okay. So, but you see what would happen there. Essentially, you would say, so let's check and make sure that when we get an update, that it is in fact an update. We didn't just update the thing we just updated, so you don't have the the infinite loop there. You'd have to do that anyways. But anyway, so that gives you the ability to listen to those things. And then like if you had a WebSocket, then you could send it to the WebSocket. You could query the WebSockets to say, oh, here are all the WebSockets. Let me send it to all the WebSockets that are listening and so forth. But yeah. So what is Ampt? Is it a new framework? It's not a new framework. We've actually been around. We actually launched last September into production.
It was a big launch. That was a big launch.
It was a big launch, yeah. And so it's a developer tool. It's basically a software development lifecycle tool that that allows you to just write application code, and then all this application code gets automatically deployed to AWS for you, and configures all the resources and everything, and then gives you a dashboard that is not mobile friendly, because it was very hard to make it mobile friendly with all the different resources or the capabilities in there. But yeah, so that's what Ampt is. But sign up, give it a try.
We're usually not coding in mobile devices, so you're probably good.
you're probably gonna be okay, right? Exactly.
Cool. And I'm probably going to keep playing around with this and see if I can get the last set of requirements there with actually getting in the map. I'll post the GitHub repo. I'll have it up in public. But this was good. I mean, I'm quite impressed, and the API. I mean, now that I know it, I can get APIs in no time, right? And it's just my coding ability at that point. But the tool is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting, setting up the API gateway, Lambda functions, all that fun stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Any last words, Jeremy?
No, I mean, I think you have to answer the question you asked originally. Is Ampt really that easy?
It is. It is. Again, we got stuck in like, okay, Hono, trying to do a mod.
Right.
But and actually, I mean, if you actually read the documentation, it's all there, right? So
Right.
I'm actually impressed at the documentation because everything we talked about, everything we were trying, it's there, right? And I was easily able to do Control F, find what I thought, right? Like limit. Okay, there it is. There's the
Yeah.
parameter I want to
And there's a
reduce the amount of
search.
data.
There's Algolia search built in
Yeah.
as well, so you can actually search, rather than trying to just Command F stuff. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So it does feel good for developer experience. It does do the job. I didn't have to worry about the resources that are getting deployed. I care because that's who I am. But
Right.
if you don't care, you don't have to, and it's just going to work. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and if
so
you
good
do
job.
care, and you want to see more transparency, like that's the other thing too. Like, I mean, part of it is to say we don't want to overcomplicate it, where it's like you just want to spin up an API. Like, do you even have to worry about the fact that we're spinning up CloudFront and Lambda and all the stuff, other stuff behind the scenes for you? Do you even care about that? And if you do care about that, we don't want to be like, oh, you have to go and understand that this is what's happening. So it's like it's a fine balance, because the goal here is to say, we just want people to be able to build really, really quickly and then get an AWS account that has all their resources in it. And like, you didn't even show, like, all you were doing was working in your developer sandbox, by the way. So you could have typed in deploy prod, and that would have deployed it into a completely separate AWS account with all its own resources, completely isolated, right? That you could then continue to work on your version of it while this other one is up and running, right? And then you could have preview accounts, all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, the idea here is, it's like, we're trying to find the right balance. Like, who is the target audience for this? Hopefully it's just developers that just want to build and have AWS get out of their way, right? But want that guarantee of knowing that this stuff is running on AWS. So it's funny, because every once in a while AWS will have like a little outage, which they don't always tell you about. Something won't be working right, and then we'll have customers email us like saying, "What's wrong? Are you experiencing downtime?" We're like, "We're not experiencing any downtime. Like, AWS might be having an issue, but your stuff is literally running on native AWS services. It has nothing to do with us once it's deployed. The only thing we're doing is just managing, sort of the interaction. Once it's deployed to AWS, it is running on AWS. And again, so we're not a PaaS. We're not hosting the application for you. AWS is hosting it for you. We're just giving you all of these tools to get it from code to this running application."
It's legitimately a tool, right? That helps, that provisions resources, right? But the resources are in the shared responsibility. They're not your responsibility. Right. You're dealing with AWS at that point, right? If something doesn't generate correctly, right? Maybe there is a bug with the event filtering.
Yes.
That's the tool, right? So that's a good differentiator for people to understand. It's like, if messages are not making it through, that's the resource that's provision. It's all hooked up. So it's the provider.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
awesome.
Anyways, well, this was great. So I didn't take any notes. I should have, but I have to go back and watch this and see the places we got stuck, and
it's all
and
recorded.
Make sure we address those.
We can send it through AI, transcribe, and get a summary.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
So,
all right. Well, I hope people enjoyed this, and feel free to reach out to me. Go to getampt.com. I'm Jeremy at getampt.com, or find me on Twitter or whatever, and I'm happy to answer some questions and help you get started.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Jeremy. This was pretty fun. I really liked it. I didn't feel overwhelmed. So appreciate you joining me.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.